Hey, what's going on, parents? Welcome back to another edition of Teenager Tuesday here on the Parent Podcast. This week, we have a special guest that is no stranger to you if you've been listening for a while. The one and only Angela Linz is with us.
Hello.
Yes. If you don't know Angela, she is one of the executive pastors here at Hope.
Yep.
And Angela, you were with me on the very first Parent Podcast that we did.
I can't believe this is number 80.
Episode 80.
Wow.
Keep tuning in. We got 20 more to 100. That's milestone.
It's going to be a big one.
Yeah, we're going to give away.
For sure.
I don't know what. But
something big now.
Maybe.
Surprise.
I don't know. We'll see. But today's episode is a Q&A. It's a Q&A. So we put a thing on Facebook and through the parent text. And if you're not on either of those, go to the website, hopefellowship.net/students. You can find resources and get other ways to interact with us and for us to get your questions. Because today, we are just going to try to answer as many of the questions that parents sent in. And more specifically, you are going to try to answer
I'm going to do my best.
Yes. So let's jump in. The first one is a little long. How do you encourage a child to go to school when they are, quote, struggling and, another quote, exhausted? This never was a choice before, but kids today seem to think it is not a big deal to miss school or they can't just switch to being viral. Thank you, COVID, for that. What are some ways to motivate your teen to get up and get out of bed?
Oh, yeah. The switch to virtual is, that was awful now that they have an option. That stinks for sure.
Well, and you have 3 teenagers.
I have 3 teenagers. Yeah. I have 2 16-year-old boys that are sophomores in high school and a 17-year-old girl. She'll be 18 in 6 weeks. She's a senior in high school. So for me, we have experienced this in a couple different ways. Part of me, the easiest thing for me is like the natural side of me wants to go, just get up and go. How hard could it be? I get up and go to work every day and I don't always want to do that. Just suck it up. But I do recognize that our teenagers go through a lot of things these days that we probably didn't go through as much when we were teenagers. But one of the biggest helps for one of my kiddos that really struggles with this is I had to recognize there was a reason they were feeling really exhausted. She would have a really hard time getting up in the morning. She really struggled paying attention in class, didn't enjoy going, wasn't real motivated to get up and get going. And I had to look at it and recognize that there is a part of life that is self-care that our kids don't just absorb. They don't just figure out how to do on their own. Yeah. So it began it looked like me as a mom saying, hey, what is this? Like, why are you so tired? Are you going to bed at a reasonable hour? Yeah. Do you have your phone too late at night? Yeah. Are you watching things on TV? Are you struggling to sleep? It opened up a lot of conversations for us. I recognized that I used to know everything when my kids were little about what they were doing. Are they taking their vitamins? How many times a day do they drink water? You just know that when they're toddlers and they're school age. You know all those details. Yeah. The older they get, the more they just take care of themselves, honestly. And so I don't really think about asking the right questions. And I recognized she wasn't taking vitamins. She wasn't sleeping well. She wasn't eating breakfast in the morning. Yeah. It was a lot of those things. Yeah. And all of those factors are things that we as adults have to learn how to do just to function in society and in the world. We have to figure out, am I exercising? Am I drinking enough water? Am I sleeping enough? And learning how to take care of themselves. So she and I had a big conversation about it. We put some things in place to help her remember to do those things, to take her vitamins regularly, her medications regularly, so that she would go to sleep more regularly, and she got on a better sleep schedule. And it's made a huge difference in her. She wakes up easier in the morning. She's excited she's not always excited about school, but she's excited about the day in general, seeing her friends. And so that is just one thing that we did. I think also a lot of parents don't really recognize when hormones may be out of whack, and even just getting vitamin levels checked. That was something that we did with her also, and recognized she was really low on certain vitamins And so
that's an easy fix.
It's a very easy fix.
Take the vitamin.
And you just take the vitamin.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things for me as a mom. It may not work for everybody,
right.
But
well, I like the
being
underlying,
more intentional.
Yeah, I like the underlying part of that though, where you say like you found out why.
Yes.
You didn't just say like why, like you're like you ask the question of like why are you doing this? Why are you exhausted? But then we don't like maybe all the time follow up and find the reason and help like coach our kids through that. That's good.
There have been other seasons where she's struggled, and it's been because of a friend situation, or she didn't want to have to go sit at the lunch table alone, or she didn't. And so those were very different fixes. Those were, hey, let's talk to a counselor.
Yeah.
Let's talk to another trusted adult that can help us figure out how to have conversations and how to find new friends. And so I think you have to be very in tune to what the underlying reason is behind it and try to start there, fixing it.
That's good. I love that. Another question that came in is how, I'll phrase this as a question, but the person said, building actual connection in a world that is completely consumed by social media. So how to build a connection. There's probably kind of wondering like, is that connection being the student to other students? Is that connection being parent to kid? I guess there's a couple directions we can kind of
absolutely
answer that one, whatever way you want to take that.
All right, awesome. I'd say let's go. How do we help them build actual connections in a world that's completely consumed by social media, student to student first?
Yeah, let's do that.
To be honest, my kids have not been allowed to have social media.
Amen.
I chose really early on, after a lot of conversations with student pastors, with other people in our lives, with teachers. My husband and I chose not to allow them to have that for a long time. And we have just stepped into our very first social media realm with them.
Whoa.
We just downloaded Be Real.
Be Real,
yeah. So it was
Parents, if you don't know what that is, look it up.
It's our first foray into social media. And what we really recognize is that there is a season for protecting your kiddo, and there's a season for preparing your kids.
Yeah.
And so when our kids were middle school and early high school years, we felt like protecting them from social media, from the time that's consumed on it, from the comparisons with other kids, constantly looking at likes and dislikes and all of those things. We just didn't want our kids having to deal with those pressures. They have enough things that they're dealing with. We just took that off the plate.
Yeah.
Now we recognize I've got a girl who's a senior and going to go into college. And honestly, if she doesn't learn how to use it in a healthy way, before she leaves our home, it could be very unhealthy when she does, and she goes and uses it. So now we're in the process of tiptoeing into that and trying to prepare them and how to use it healthy. So when we're talking about social media connections between friends, to be honest, we haven't had a huge issue with that because we just didn't allow it for a long time.
Yeah.
Now, there are some things, our boys love playing video games. So sometimes on weekends, it's very easy for them to find themselves just wanting to do that and not connect in real life. So we put a lot of time limits on things like that. They actually aren't allowed to have it until after they have gone and hung out with a friend or talked to a friend or FaceTimed with a friend or done some sort of physical activity on Saturdays.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that I think you can put into place by limiting the time on those devices where you can encourage them to be involved with other friends. Thankfully, our boys have always been real involved in sports. So that's been, I think sports,
connection.
Even if they're not great at it, they have seasons they really aren't the best on the team, but they love being with other kids when they're there. But they don't want to leave their devices to go do it.
Yeah.
They complain about it like crazy. But when they go and do it,
it's better.
Then they enjoy the time with them. So I think getting them involved in those extracurriculars is one of the best ways you can help them connect student to student.
That's good.
That and church.
Yeah. Amen.
Youth group.
Church.
Youth group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to keep answering some of these questions.
Okay.
We only got to 2.
I
but
know.
We're going to do it. Let's do another episode.
Okay.
And one thing that you touched on that I want to hit in the next episode is you said there's a time of preparing and a time of protecting. Mm-hmm. So parents, join us next week again on Teenager Tuesday, the parent podcast. But for the rest of the week, as always, remember, you can do this. You're not alone. God is with you, and so are we. We'll see you.